Okay, so hi, it's me, Patrice, and this is my very first tarot reading. I've done tarot readings. This was my first time ever posting anything, so just been going for a lot of realizations. Reading for some friends, which have been powerful. Haven't read for myself for a long time. Been listening, learning, absorbing like crazy because that's who I am. Matching the readings that I hear with my intuition, with what I'm seeing in the world, with what comes up, my patterns. Pattern recognition is kind of my specialty. And today I had the realization that if there was an archetype that I think I mastered well, it is that that I had a perfect, beautiful life, a lot of love, husband who loved me, still does. We're very, very close. So I think he's my compassionate witness, or at least one of them. We raised our children together. Everything's beautiful. And there was a point where I said to myself, I don't understand, because I have a very enviable life and it isn't mine. And it was wonderful. I loved a lot of things, still love those things in a different way. My life is different. And everything that was important and valuable to me then it's still in my life now. Everything's very different. And I can also say that everyone around me is healthier, including myself. They're all having more robust lives. I'm not as big of a part in some cases. And obviously that was the right thing for everybody. So we all have fuller lives, being smaller slivers, but just because we're a small sliver doesn't mean that we are unimportant into one another's. And I think that sometimes we think time equals depth, and I think they're completely different things. And that's, anyway, I've been fascinated with that and time and timelines and how that works out and how there is no time and how we get cul-de-sac and how time gets extended for things. And I'm at a point right now, whereas I used to see big chunks and big voids in my life, and now everything's just going smoothly. So this is where I am in my journey. And so this channel will likely resonate with people that are similar. So that's why I'm sharing that, my story. So today when I came home, I decided that I had my tarot cards in a box, a beautiful wooden box. I collect a lot of old stuff. I have always liked other people's possessions. It's like I get that energy. My house is surrounded by special things all over the place that originally were owned by someone else. So I have this really cool box. I put my tarot cards in there. Yesterday was the total solar eclipse. And I've been feeling reborn several times this week. Like I had a big Phoenix rebirth on, I think Monday, Tuesday, and it's just exponentially been huge. So this morning when I woke up, I did my walk. Wonderful day, actually. A lot of realization, just loving every moment of life and seeing the beauty. And ironically, we have this song on because I was just going to say, is realizing that that is my choice, is that I want to do the best that I can in this life, and this role is to embody being an angel to as many people as I can, and also for myself, so that I can embody that. And then when I embody that, I get to ideally let other people recognize those elements in me and themselves, and so that we can create more angels. So I just love that this song came on. Anyway, as you see, synchronicities happen all the time. Music is a big part of who I am. So anyway, so this tarot channel, if it does turn into a channel, and we'll see if I end up coming up with something that feels like it's making sense. This is just a test, really, an experience and an experiment, which so is life. But my intention is for this to be for the collective of people that technically have a very successful, very happy life. They could stay in, they could master, they feel very lucky and thoughtful. And also this is just not their life. And so it's funny when I pulled my tarot cards out of that box, sorry, because it was like, I just felt like they were in there for that season, and now it was time to release them, that they didn't want their energy to be cooped up in a box. And I felt that this is very figurative for where our world is right now too. So as I was pulling them out, the classic Rider-Waite deck, which I very rarely use, but know well, when I pulled them, that's the only box that some fell out. And it's funny because I was like, well, let me see, maybe I'll play with it a little bit. So I pick up the box and there's one card left. And I said, oh, I wonder what was left behind. And it was the Three of Swords, which is the card of betrayal, all of that stuff. So that was really neat underneath, and it's not there anymore. So I shuffled it out to not a magician. So again, interesting timing. We can create anything we want. At the bottom was the Queen of Swords, which is, again, when I know I'm the Queen of Swords and when I'm asking the right questions and I'm not being unkind, I'm a master. So I know that I can wield a sword with kindness and not hurt someone, right? When you watch those swords, the true masters, they give a full swing and stop it perfectly. They never can harm anyone, although it's like that person's living it out. So when we can be that, when we can use our words to be as sharp as they need to be and ensure that it doesn't hurt, that it gets to the point where they learn the message and they learn it clearly and it causes no pain. So they get a realization without any kind of an injury, right? So that is what a queen of swords is to me. So when we're doing that, we avoid heartache both for ourselves and we of course can heal it in others. And on the other side was the lover. So I do know that we're coming into a world of love. So those of you that resonate with this, I do think that what we have been going through is really giving us that option of seeing like what is the 3D matrix world to have to offer and to see, wow, we did achieve the ultimate, right? It's not that we couldn't make it to the top, but that we're making a different choice, that we believe that there is more to that, more than we've been offered, more than we've been given. So that's where we're going to be today. It's just going to be a tiny little reading. And of course, there's always music. So we're going to get our little Leah going. So anyway, I just love that the magician's at the bottom again. And the magician, some of the other cards they embody, he can pull in all of the elements. So he's kind of got a little bit of everything. I don't know how I'm doing this right. So I love that the infinity is over his head. I do feel like that's where we are now, as we're in the center of that infinity point. I believe that all of our lifetimes over the last little bit, whether you're Kali Yuga in and or kind of figure out all of that, if you're ancient aliens, I think my computer's going to die. Anyway, so we've been out in those wings and we've seen those extremities. And I believe we're right in that center where our choice points are getting to be instantaneous. And we're starting to realize that everything is a choice point, whether it's a person that you lock eyes contact with that you can make feel kind or special, or it's a new potential relationship that in the past you would have chosen fear and looked away because you would have said, oh God, I don't want him to think I like you. That's me sometimes. Or if you're saying, you know what, no, I'm going to choose courage and love, and I'm going to look this person in the eye, and I'm going to be curious about, is there something there? So I think, and again, take this as it resonates. It doesn't have to be with a person, but I believe that's where we are in our collective, is we're realizing that everything is a choice point, and we can manipulate our lives so fast to get it to where we want to go. And manipulate, by the way, there are some words in here, and I'm always fascinated that there are words that we consider negative words, but that's just a judgment. Every word is just neutral, right? Like we decide kind of where it goes. So there can be a good manipulate too, right? We do want, in fact, we should be manipulating people for their best selves, because let's face it, the people around us, and again, especially if you're on this resonating, then there's a very likelihood that you've been able to make more changes in the lives of people around them than them themselves. Sometimes that can be an addictive thing and we can kind of get looped in there. I certainly did for a while, being everyone's hero and saving everyone. There's archetypes too, right? But also, you know, not getting lost. So just notice that you're right there and that you can manipulate. Be the magician. The magician isn't a bad thing. It can be if you choose to use it for ill, but if you use it for good, and when you use it for good, it changes people's lives. So you can choose to be the angel of someone's life every day. And if that is who you are being, if you're choosing to be an angel being, then you will embody that and people will see you as that. And they will have more of an opportunity to see that in themselves, because we only see in ourselves what other people have. So, okay. I don't know how I'm doing this. I have a spread that I do when I'm doing for people, but I'm just winging it by kind of what comes up. So that, oh, wow. So the first card that had come up earlier when it fell out is the Wheel of Fortune. And of course, this is the card of change. I also like that kind of on there, what it looks to me is like things are just, it's a lot of divine timing kind of an energy right now in the collective for sure. Look, we have the devil underneath the wheel. He's just chilling back, relaxing. He thinks it's great, right? The gravity does not apply to him. He is hanging upside down on the earth and it doesn't matter. No one can see him. He's kind of on that backside. We have our little snake, which by the way, is kind of between both worlds. When we're talking about the story of Adam and Eve, I'm not going to get into all of this stuff in our past, but you can look into it, and Enel and Enki and some of those things, and with the snake and the knowledge of what God is, that maybe that's the realization that we are the inner gods and we need to go within and find it. And there are maybe powers that be that didn't want that. And so they told us that the snakes were bad. And the snake is just, it's ever changing, right? The snake is everything. If you're messing with its kid, it's very, very bad. But a snake is consistent. A snake, you know exactly what a snake is. A snake's not going to surprise you. You are more likely to surprise a snake. Well, I guess a snake can surprise you, but you know what I mean. Their behavior, they usually make it obvious. They're rattling, they're showing up their things, but usually something that's more dangerous, again, is something you can't see. Snakes, rhinoceroses, people know what to avoid. And so that's what I actually really like about snakes, or any kind of creatures that could be painful that show you that they're painful is a lot safer than, like, let's say a bunny rabbit with a virus that kill everybody. And then you've got the little Sphinxy at the top. This is a 10 card, so card of change. Right now, it definitely feels like we are in the middle of an end of a cycle. It's so funny. It feels like that's been the buildup with all of this war, to be honest. There's been a lot of like 9 energy, which is that kind of panic, like 9 of swords and torture and heavy. The 9 of wands, which is so flippin' heavy, and you're carrying it up. And it's when you get to the 10 that you're done. Like what I always think of when I think of the 9 of swords is like, I've got 9 swords in my back and it hurts. And I have no idea who's doing it, right? I can't see what's causing me pain, but it's taking that last sword, which is the sword of truth, and gotta like, and you end it for yourself. And you say, I'm ending this cycle. I'm ending this pain. And only when we're ending do we have a chance at rebirth. And again, I love that with this Wheel of Fortune card, is anything is possible. And, you know, we talk a lot about, we have to end our ego to get to our soul. And here we go for a Let It Go song. I just love how this is all working out. So it's really that point where we shed our ego. You ready, people? Let it go. Let it go. You can't hold it back anymore, right? Like, anyway, so I feel like that's where we can be, is stop trying to be, just be. Like, look at your past, see who you were, know that you have every power of the magician, and that things are changing because the time is different, because the environment is different. Like the same things that didn't work for us in the past will work now, and we have to have faith. And I think, again, that's some of the things with our ego. What our ego says is, don't try this. It didn't work back when you were a child. So what the ego does is it prevents us from doing anything that didn't work when we were a child. But if you're paying attention to the spiritual journey at all, everyone's like, find your inner child. How do you find your inner child? You find it because that's where those fear points are, because the inner child is the ones that said, we can't do this. This isn't safe. It didn't work for us in the past. So if we're just going back and looking to the things that we're doing, it's usually something our inner child didn't do, because it didn't work in that energy and it wasn't time yet. So here we are with our divine timing. It is time. So it's time for trying new things. And again, being that magician and using all of that, right? Being in the center of that point. You're not getting whipped around by anybody. Like, you own it. Look at that guy. He's confident. This is not a defensive stance. This is a victorious stance. This could be a stance of, I'm about to get started. It's just charging. And it's not charging like for a war. It's just like, I'm right here. I'm holding a light for anybody that needs it. I'm not afraid to go forward if I need. I have a cup on the table. If anyone comes, I have more than enough, right? It's abundance. You've got the roses all around, which fruit looks like kind of grapes hanging off the vine. Like, this is pure abundance, and it's welcoming everyone to this table. And you have to embody that if you want to have a table to do it. So anyway, and I believe this is the energy to get it done. So it's a good thing I don't pull very many cards, because we have a lot already. Okay. And then these all fell out. So we'll see what comes up if this tells us a little bit of a story. This is new for me. So, okay. So we have the 2 of Swords. So that is blindness. I had that for a very long time, as I chose not to see, right? There are none so blind as those that can't see. She's choosing to put that blindfold on her. And for part of us, sometimes we're like, I'm not going to do that anymore. But if you think about it, and we're talking about the Queen of Swords earlier and wielding that, like, how do you learn to wield a sword? You freaking practice. If you want to be good at something and you want to be good at stopping at someone's neck, you practice it blindfolded. You make sure that you're practicing that in every case. You don't need to see what's coming. Your instincts are there, right? So for me, I think in the past, I've seen that as a card, like, oh, I didn't want to see what was happening, and I kept myself in problems. And now I see it as no, I've been sparring with the best of the best, and I've been doing it blindfolded. And I've survived and I've thrived, and my power has only gotten stronger because I was fighting blindfolded the whole time. I haven't even started trying yet. You haven't even seen anything yet. So I love that in this card. And look at the top, we have our little eclipse that's there. And look at the calm, still waters. A lot of times when we think about the moon and I see moon and water, I think about how the moon impacts the water. But look at that. She is calm as can be. She's not worried. It doesn't matter where there's an eclipse. She doesn't need to look at anything, right? It's just not necessary, because she is completely at peace and faith. Because if anything, like they always say, don't turn your back to the water. She doesn't care. She turns her back to the water. She's not afraid of the water, because she is a freaking master, and she's a master blindfolded. She doesn't have to see if the water's rising. She can sense it. She can feel it. So I like this card. And I think we haven't even gotten started yet. This is what it took for us to get to this point. We did need to be blindfolded, and it did a lot of times feel like we were fighting blind. And that was scary and uncomfortable. And for those of us that have made it here and that can still find joy in that and are still keeping it together, just think of how strong you really are, because when a real battle comes, she's not in a battle. When a real battle comes, you take your blindfold off. You can. That's easy to do. She chose to put that blindfold on. And sometimes we've been in judgment of that part of us. And sometimes we've been in judgment of others. But I think this is saying stop that. It's to stop being in judgment. You chose that because you needed to spar. That's how it happens, right? I was watching Dune the other night. My son loves that movie. And I watched it for the second time. And I was thinking about my life and some of the things that I went through. And the son, I'm sorry, I don't know his name. The star of the show, he, like his dad gave him the reason he was ready is because he had the baddest ass sparring partner. He had a real military partner. When you think in your life, like, oh, I've had the worst time, I've had the hardest people. Yeah, that's because your soul chose the best flipping sparring partner that there was. A king isn't going to give a good king isn't going to give his son a comfortable sparring partner to learn from. That's not how you do it. And you're not going to say, when I'm ready. In the game, in the movie at the beginning, he's like, I'm not in the mood. And the guy comes at him and says, you're not supposed to be in the mood. He pushes him until he gets in the mood, until he can defend himself. And I think, again, that's part of where we are in our life, is we need to embrace that and realize that this is something we chose. Okay, so now we have the 7 of Cups here, and this is a lot of options. So this one, look at the variation in the options. Today on my social media, I did a little video and thought about life as a sippy straw. Like, I always love those with the little curlies, and they're great. Here's the thing is those kind of get dirty. They're kind of gross. You end up chewing on them. You lose them all the time. They're very inefficient for getting liquid through, but they sure do give you quite an experience, right? In every kind of a way, good, bad, and otherwise. Those were the straws that I chose to drink out of, or the fun ones, right? And that's what we're choosing in our life. And we have all of these options. And we have to, again, recognize that we didn't choose the short straw. We chose a curly straw because we wanted experience, because that's what makes us who we are. If we're going into this battle right now, right? If this is like the battle and like the time we've been waiting for, we want it to be the most well-trained. So this life has been about as many, as varied experiences as we possibly can. Some of them have been like amazing, more brilliant than most people ever get to experience. And some have been a lot darker than most people ever get to experience. And we have mastered those cups. And I see this as like, he's got those up there on a trophy case. I think it's time for us to be proud of what we've been through and to honor that and to celebrate and go, oh, crap, right? Like that made me so awesome. And it doesn't have like a place, right? They're all kind of scattered. It's not like one's better than the X. The angel is no better than the devil, to be honest, in the whole game. Everybody is necessary and they're two sides of the same. We're all equal when it comes to, it's just an experience that soul has chosen and given us the opportunity to rise to that occasion, because the only way I get to be so light is if someone else had to play a role that was so dark, because everything is ultimately balanced. So I have to be grateful for my happy life that someone took it on the other side, and know that I've had that life in all of those roles, good, bad, and otherwise as well. And for today, for me, I just can't wait to see what's in the next cup. I'm super excited. There's like a gray cloud. You can't see through it. So, but I do know there's goodness on the other side. And he almost looks like he's conducting like an orchestra or something, like, you know, like they're playing their own song. So maybe it's like a, ooh, lots to come song. Okay, what do we have here? Oh, the Emperor. So the Emperor sits on his throne and he can like wait. The Emperor's a patient fella. I don't get a whole lot about this one. Sometimes I hear that the Emperor is, well, we know it's very divine masculine. And right now the divine masculine energy is coming out. Okay, I guess I do have something. So it's funny because I always see a lot of patterns. And so 3-2-4 pattern, 6-3-9, 2-1-3. For me, the checkmark pattern comes off a lot. And the way I see it is it's a number, you come down halfway and then you go up twice as much, or you go down one and you come up. And so it's that balance. It's the shape of a check mark. And so I think that's how it is with our lives. Again, we didn't choose that straight straw. We chose a bumpy straw or curly straw. And so in many cases, we required, if that was the archetype, we required to be able to go down to hit that rock bottom before we could skyrocket twice above that we were, because we didn't choose the boring straight pattern. There are some people that just are slow and steady and do it every day. And if you're resonating with me, it's likely that you're not that person. You chose, you needed more excitement. You wanted an experience, and we have gotten it. I also read something last night and it said like that I was going to sin fast. And it said I chose one of the fastest ones, but that doesn't mean it's the easiest. So that's the path that we've chosen. So I think we want to sit there in our, for those of us through my ascension journey, I had to embrace my feminine energy because I was over divine masculine. And so now I've kind of, my pendulum's coming back and I'm able to embrace both of it. And so this is just telling me to welcome that emperor and to trust him, because he had to bring you to that point and you had to be stubborn in some of this divine masculine. It has to happen so that we can get to our better place. So we are hitting the bottom of our check mark in some ways. We're seeing it in the world, and we can trust that when we're here, be grateful and acknowledge it, because when we acknowledge it and stop fighting it, then it can stop and we can start going back up, and it will happen naturally when we stop fighting it. So that's what I see with him right there. The star, here's a card of healing. Oh, I don't know. And I think we're not supposed to have nudies on here if I put it on YouTube. So this is the star card of healing. So the star comes after a tower. Our world has definitely been having towers. Everyone, all of the astrology, the solar science, like I love studying every pillar. And I've watched over the past several months, all of these segments from military to, anyway, I won't even get into the stuff that I track, but the stuff I've been paying attention to, knowing that something is coming. And there's a tower moment. So we've been watching, some of us have been watching this tower fall ever so slowly. And I love that the star card is here, because I do believe that what we're going through with this war is some of the start of the release of that tension. That means part of the tower has now hit. But if you've ever watched something fall in slow motion, a tower, it hits at the bottom and then it comes down. So there's going to be more to fall. We just need to scatter and stay out of the way. We need to be alert and aware. And we need to stay within, because this is how our collective gets to healing. And I know it's not delightful, and yet it is what it is. There are a lot of people that choose, that will not make a hard choice unless they are forced to get into courage. And if you've ever looked at the energy scale, then you know courage is in the center. So there's guilt, shame, envy, anger, all of those at the bottom. Apathy is, by the way, the worst. So just sitting still and being stagnant is worse than being angry, jealous, or any of those things. So if you're sitting around doing nothing except for judging people, know that your energy is actually more detrimental to the collective than those people that are out there getting it wrong. Because eventually those people who are getting it wrong are in motion and get a chance to make another choice, right? So we need to get up to, but right above that is courage, and that's at 200. Everything above 200 is high. And if we can keep ourselves above the courage line, right? Every time there's a choice point and we have fear or love, if we are in a steady stow of, I'm choosing love, I'm choosing courage, I'm choosing love, I'm choosing courage over fear, we listen to our fear. We ask that the question is, am I in present danger? Because if we are, we react. And if we're not in present danger, is this harming or helping me? And then we can make a conscious decision, move on. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will tell you that once you let that tower fall, that's the bottom of the check mark we just talked about. Then you can go back up. So let the towers fall, move out of the way, move your belongings, right? If a tower were falling, right, you would just get out of the way and you'd be fine. Watch, and then it'd be kind of cool to watch if you choose to. And that's where I am at a place right now where I'm seeing a lot of things, doing a lot of prayer, sending a lot of love, being there in support for anything that I can, anything I can control, anyone I can help. I'm in that present moment. And if I don't have that opportunity, then I'm sending love and I'm rebuilding my joy. I'm healing myself so that I will be ready when the next person comes and needs my help. So those of you that can be stars for others, again, it's that angel energy. Go be that angel energy. Drink from this. Be natural, be free. The lack of clothing is be vulnerable. That lady is not afraid. She's bending over. She's not looking behind her to see if something's coming. She doesn't care if someone's looking at her. This is embodying freedom. And so we always see nakedness as a dirty thing, and it isn't. It's a vulnerable thing. It's vulnerability. And so showing, let us go be vulnerable where other people's can't. No one has any clothes on, right? An ego is our clothes. And if we are souls, we don't have to wear clothes. We don't have to hide ourselves. We don't have to be successful and rich and pretty and all of that stuff. Nothing matters because we're naked. We're just souls. So when we're showing ourselves, if we have the strength to show that vulnerability as much of our soul as we can as possible, we show other people it is okay for them to be that too, because they are naked and they need to go get some water. And until they are fearless enough to be able to go out there vulnerable and naked as we need to create the world that we need, then we need to go and get that proverbial cup of water, that cup of love for them, and to give it. But I will say, notice that she is not a scrawny woman. I can't show you her parts, but I will show you. She's not scrawny. She's athletic. She's got her parts. So you're making sure to nourish yourself. Be that healthiest version. She has a healthy version of a female body. in a lot of cases. She's not scrawny. She's, shapely. It looks like she's active, right? So be that healthy person. And I'm not talking about bodies or figures. I'm talking about energetically, is making sure that you're filling yourself up from within. Someone who has a body like hers that's fit probably works out for it. That means it does take effort and it does take investment into our bodies. And again, we're using the body to talk about our soul. So for those of us that want to be healers, we need to do the work too. We need to invest in ourselves, not go out and save the world, because their lives are way easier to do. Save them a little and come home and save yourself a little. And little by little, what are you doing to invest into you? How are you doing energetic exercises? Because we have a chance to really make the world shine, I believe. And last but not least, we have the moon. So we've got a lunar eclipse coming up on the 28th. There's going to bring a lot of energy and it's going to bring a lot of darkness. So for those of us that are there, we need to be out there howling at the moon, not be afraid. There are things that are going to look like they're going to scare us. Look, that crawfish, he looks kind of scary, right? But he's not, he looks bigger than the dog, but he's not really. It's just a perception. Sometimes something like a crawfish, which a dog would eat, by the way, if you're looking at it from a different angle, the crawfish looks like it could take down. It looks scarier than the dogs. It looks like the dogs are in danger and the dogs are distracted by the moon. But really, he's in no danger. He's not at all. He just lives in a different environment. He's cold, probably scary sometimes. It's all nice and dark under there. And we don't know. He might have bad designs or he might have good designs. We really don't know. I think sometimes we judge things and we just assume if we don't understand it or we don't see it. The moon is the unknown, right? If we don't understand or see it, I think sometimes we look for the fear in it because we're so worried about protecting ourselves. So don't worry about the crawfish. He may be different and we'll see what happens when he gets there. If he tries to bite the dogs, then the dogs can trust that they can take control of themselves, the situation. They can choose to attack or they can choose to walk away. There's always a different answer. There's also the possibility that that crawfish is really nice and he wanted to invite them to a swimming party. And so maybe it's give someone an opportunity to surprise you and don't judge them along the way. Let this reveal to you, right? We've got the eclipse coming and let's be surprised and let's give the opportunity that when we might be surprised that we might be delighted too, right? A lot of times we always think of, again, is that words can be neutral. Sometimes if it's in the dark, people might consider a surprise in the dark to not be awesome when you're outside, right? By the water. You're like, oh my God, a creature's coming out of the water and it's surprising me. Most people would assume that's yucky. What if the little fella's just inviting you to like a cool firefly or jamboree, right? Something that you would never see if you were looking at the moon. And only the dark actually is the place that the fireflies and some of those other nocturnal, beautiful creatures get to come out. They don't get to come out in the daytime. We as daytime creatures get to go into the night. Like we have that ability to do both sides. And even though it's scary, we at least have the chance. Most nocturnal things don't have the option to come out into the sunlight. So we're the more powerful ones, right? Because we can live in all of those environments. Also, an underwater creature cannot live above the surface. He can't stay. It doesn't work out. We as out over the water, we can go in the water. So we get to live on both sides. And sometimes it is scary when we're in a territory that's new and different, but we have to have faith that we have that power and the ability. And again, we are the creatures. Humans have mastered being able to go into depths and areas. We've got resources and equipment. And so again, let's be prepared and let's be that to ourselves. And again, this is energetically as well as the 3D, right? We want to be prepared for everything in every way. And also when we're there, once we have that preparation done, then we can just go and have fun and we can expect the best because sometimes the best does come. If we're expecting the worst, we might get the worst. In fact, we usually do, especially for those of us with big energy. And if you're watching this, you usually have bigger energy than all of those other people around you who are just following direction. So your energy is bigger. So if you're expecting goodness, you're going to get goodness because you have the larger energy in the room. And if you're expecting a fight, you've set that energetic tone and that is what you'll get. And you're going to get it from someone that's more fearful than you. Because if the dog looked like it was coming it started barking at that crawfish, it would act very different and it would get defensive and it would be very scared. So when the dog would go, even if after the dog barked, if it was actually not going to harm it, it was just going to pick it up and try and bring it to the water. Well, that crawfish would probably be biting and fighting because it doesn't understand it's in a completely different environment that's unsafe. And it would be frightened. So let's just remember that for those of us with big energy, let's go back to our magician, that we set the tone, that we have the power to. We get to set the table. Do you see that? I love when it comes full circle. Oh, I don't have any more music. I'm going to have to make a longer playlist. Well, all right. Well, thanks, you guys. I'm going to do like 3 little cards on top just to see, because we didn't even get to pull cards, but that was just pretty amazing. Holy crap. Okay. So I don't usually read reversals because that's just not my jam, but I will say the 9 of Pentacles was reversed. And the only thing I will say is that this is freedom, right? This is minor Empress. So, and this is financial freedom. I do kind of like in reverse now that I think about it. I think where we are right now, I think we're going to have a lot of chaos. I think we're going to have to lose. It's going to look like we're losing our freedom to get our freedom. I think we have to embrace the down part of the checklist, check mark to get to the top. So I believe that it's there and our freedom is there. It's just that we're going to have to go down to come back up. That's how I read this one. And then these are right. And then this is the Chariot and the 6 of Cups. So get ready, people, because our soul's journey has begun. These are all of our lifetimes, our past lives, our soul family, all of this love and cup and sharing. And look, all these cups have flowers in it. And like, this is reuniting with people from your past. And, you know, this is like, you know, historic looking village or whatever. Like, that's just so freaking cool. And this is being kind, sharing with one another. Like, that is having more than enough. Like, he's giving a child a cup, right? He's a vendor that has more than enough because he's just giving something to a child. Child doesn't have any money. He isn't paying for it. It's just blessings coming. And then this is the Chariot. Things are coming. And yesterday I actually saw a chariot it was really, I had a magical moment about kind of angels and spaceships and all. It was actually really beautiful. And in the sky, there was a cloud that looked like a chariot. It stayed for a very long time. And then it even looked like some trumpet, like it was really cool. It even looked like angels with trumpets. And then a little later, I saw this really beautiful iridescent cloud, and it was super magical and it felt special. The shape of it was just really unique. It looked like a vessel. And then what's neat is, like, within minutes, I took a picture of it just because it seemed nice. And then I kept walking, and within like 2 minutes, I looked over, and that vessel, the cloud, had a perfect line down the center. I was like, oh, that's weird. And then in the middle of the line, it split and it started disappearing. And literally within a couple of minutes, the entire cloud disappeared, and it was really magical. And anyway, but the chariot is what I got. I feel like this is like go time for our soul. I feel like this is a really magical moment where we all get to see our own character. I don't believe that the world's falling. Well, I do believe the world will be falling apart in some ways. I think there's some tower moments, but I think it's just the broken parts that are falling away. We're not losing our world. We are losing like the dusty, crusty spots that were on top of our world. That fresh new rebirth, that phoenix is right beneath it. And the parts have been falling for a long time, you guys. So don't be afraid, because you have been living in it. You've been living in it for quite a while. And now we're getting to the point where it's almost at the bottom. That's where it's the safest. And when you can be alerted, which we are all alerted, that is when we can keep ourselves safe. So stay safe, stay in the present moment, and know that there is so much goodness to come. And again, when we're talking about, like, you can see this chariot, and if we want, we could see him as going into battle, or we could see him as going into ceremony. Look at this guy. This is not a battle outfit. He is wearing like a battle-y thing in a way, but that's just because that's what people do. But this looks like it's after a battle. Look, he's got like stars on his curtains. Like, this is a procession of showing off. This looks like we have won. We got our beautiful life. We are flying forward. And again, these are just like balance, right? The balance chariot. And that's where we're going back to in life, is how do we have more balance? How do we get back to that center? Oh, I don't know where I put my magician. How do we get back to the center of, I lost it. Oh, well, how do we get to the center of that infinity, right? So we're not getting whipped around by the world, but we're literally just sitting there. Remember, we had the emperor also sitting there, and we have this guy. So that emperor, let's just say he's got a star on his head, and he's now celebrating the new world. Look how beautiful it is. He's got a yellow sky, so lots of like sun energy and happiness. And these little sphinxes are just sitting all nice and relaxed, like they're as chill as chill could be. And I'm going to take that as happiness and balance. So thank you if you watched me. And I thought this was really fun. So I can't wait to do this again. And if you're watching this, then you may or may not be my very first customer, which is free. But anyway, this is fun for me. Thank you. Have a great day. Be your best self. Be the angel that I know you are. Bye, everyone. Oh, I gotta turn it off.